The Chantry teaches us that it is the hubris of men which brought the darkspawn into our world. The mages had sought to usurp heaven, but instead, they destroyed it. They were cast out, twisted and cursed by their own corruption. They returned as monsters, the first of the darkspawn. They became a blight upon the lands, unstoppable and relentless. The dwarven kingdoms were the first to fall, and from the deep roads, the darkspawn drove at us again and again, until finally we neared annihilation. Until the Grey Wardens came. Men and women from every race, warriors and mages, barbarians and kings. The Grey Wardens sacrificed everything to stem the tide of darkness, and prevailed. It has been 4 centuries since that victory, and we have kept our vigil. We have watched and waited for the darkspawn to return. But those who once called us heroes have forgotten. We are few now, and our warnings have been ignored for too long. Even be too late. For I have seen with my own eyes what lies on the horizon. Maker, help us all.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Let's Play Dragon Age Origins Part 1. As always, my name is eckohour, and I will be the disembodied voice hosting this Let's Play. This is a game that I feel doesn't really need or warrant much introduction. Bioware is a very popular game development company out there in the gaming industry, despite the controversy behind Mass Effect 3's ending. They've always made great fun games. Even Mass Effect 3 was a fun game despite its ending. Ever since, I mean, I'm sure there was maybe some games before that, but the furthest back I know of that Bioware made a game was Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, back a long time ago, many years, for the original Xbox, I believe, and PlayStation 2 at the time. And those were really kind of groundbreaking games for a world that was kind of used to either getting the JRPG or the, the Fallout, or kind of what was up until the time kind of the top-down scroller RPG that had kind of become synonymous with the West, the kind of Baldur's Gate games or Diablo. Really, Knights of the Old Republic was one of the kind of first third-person-y kind of RPGs, from my knowledge, or at the very least, one of the first ones that was very successful. And since then, Bioware has just become a company that has become known for releasing really good AAA titles for the RPG industry, especially with Mass Effect. I think Mass Effect really revolutionized what people expect from Western RPGs. This was Bioware. This came out, or this was, sorry, Bioware. This was Dragon Age. This came out after Mass Effect 1, I believe, a few years ago. And it was really kind of considered the spiritual successor of the Baldur's Gate franchise. It kind of incorporated some of the older, more familiar styles of RPG with the new style that Bioware really kind of began. It's a really fun game, a really unique kind of fantasy world that does still use some of the old fantasy tropes, but likes to inject some of its own uniqueness into it too. I really wanted to play it. I wanted to play at least one Bioware game just because I love Bioware so much, and I decided I wanted to break out of the whole RTS genre. So I figured this would be a good game. It's still kind of, RPGs are still kind of slower paced. You still pause, you still move around, but it's going to be a little more actiony, a little more adventure-y. There'll be dialogue and everything. So what I've decided I'm going to do, for those of you who aren't familiar with Dragon Age Origins, it is a fantasy game set in its own IP world. It doesn't exist in Tolkien or Warhammer. It's its own world. And this is a world that is occasionally assailed by a malign force known as the darkspawn. If you want to kind of any more common analogies to the darkspawn, they're kind of like the evil from hell, or like the orcs from Mordor. They're like this just really evil tide that occasionally rises up and threatens the world of mortals. They're usually led by an archdemon, in this case a very large and powerful dragon. I don't want to get too far in the story, but you will take on the role of a Grey Warden, the people who are tasked with fighting against the Darkspawn, with the eventual goal of defeating that archdemon. So what I decided I was going to do is you can pick from 3 races: the humans, the elves, and the dwarves. You can obviously be male or female. I really decided I am going to be a dwarf. I've played humans and elves before. The humans are all kind of normal. There's nobles and just regular folk. The elves, there's 2 kind of echelons of elves. There's the wild elves, or the Dalish elves, which exist in the wilds and the forests. Those are your kind of typical wood elves, basically what you would think of as an elf. And then you also have the house elves, which are really more or less slaves in this world. They often are servants and are looked down upon as second-class citizens or worse by most of society, including the dwarves. They're just not in a good way. Then you have the dwarves, which are kind of isolated from the rest of the world. They don't usually come up out of ground. Those few that do are kind of outcasty. But the dwarves are very much about their who has stuff, and the people who do not have stuff, the haves and the have-nots. That's the word I was looking for. But I decided I'm going to be a dwarf, and I decided I'm not going to be a warrior. I'm going to be a rogue. I think I'm going to build him into an archer at the end of it. But we're going to start out as a rogue, which means we can choose from one of 6 backgrounds. This was kind of the toted feature of Dragon Age Origins, was its 6 different origin stories that you get to play with at the beginning of the game. Some of them are determinate upon your race, some of them are determinate upon the class you play, etc., etc. When you pick a dwarf, dwarves are not allowed to become mages. They are somewhat resistant to magic, but because of that, they are not allowed to wield magic, so they can only be warriors or rogues. And then from those that you decide, you can either be the dwarf commoner, which is considered the casteless. They're looked down upon by everybody in dwarven society. Or you can be the dwarf noble, which is one of the prominent families vying for leadership of the dwarven throne. I believe the city is Orzammar. I decided I'm going to be kind of errant to my rogue background. I decided I'm going to be a dwarf commoner. I'm going to start off as a thug, and we'll see where the world takes me.
Greetings.
Alright, so this is going to be the customization page. I'm not going to actually show this to you guys. I'm going to get my dwarf all customized. So let's just skip right now. Okay, and now we have our dwarf. His name is Yorgrim. He is a thug. Not exactly the prettiest looking fellow, but that's okay. That's how I want him to be. Now we're here to our point allocation. I do want him to have a good bit of dexterity. And I also wouldn't mind his cunning being high as well. Cunning determines... actually, let me go real quick over the different stats. Strength measures a character's physical prowess. That's pretty obvious. It's going to determine just how much damage you do. Dexterity is just how effective you are with your weapons. It kind of factors into your ability to dodge, your ability to wield two weapons at once, and I think it also affects your critical hit chance. Willpower is your mental fortitude. This gives you more mana, all that kind of stuff. It also magic affects the damage of your magical based attacks. So it's crucial for mages. For everyone else, I think it just determines how effective it is when you drink a potion. Like, I think the higher your magic is, if you drink a potion, it's going to do better on you. Cunning is just how it affects... Cunning kind of determines how effective you are in your non-combat based skills. So you're able to build traps and poisons and able to make potions in this game, which is kind of something I think I might want to do for this guy. But so cunning determines that. It also determines I think it also factors into their ability to influence other people. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I've played this. I'm still kind of getting back into it. But cunning is a very good skill for rogues, which is what my character is. As a lot of their class abilities are dependent upon how strong their cunning, and I also think their dexterity is. And then finally, Constitution is, it determines how high your health is. So yeah, I put my points into Dex and Cunning. We'll be doing more later on, but for now, I think those are the two I want the most in. Alright, so let's see what our skills are. Our skills are, we have Coercion. So we're influential enough that we can convince others to change their views. That gives you access to certain dialogue options. Stealing, we're quick enough to pilfer small items from others, whether friendly or hostile, as long as they are not too alert. I'm not entirely sure if maybe you can just randomly pickpocket people in town. I can't remember if you could do that or not. I never really did a rogue, so this is kind of all new to me. Trap making, you make traps. I think it varies from everything from the bear traps like you see up there in the top right hand corner to actually being able to make explosives, but I think you actually have to place them, all that kind of stuff. Survival detects the presence of creatures, grants a small bit of nature resistance. Well, we are a dwarf, so we're already kind of resistant to most magics, so nature resistant would make us even more strong. Herbalism, we can make potions, poultices, and salves from common herbs. That's always a useful skill to have, but there are other characters who can make it, so we don't just need it. There's poison making. Rogues can make poisons, which they can in turn make into grenades, or I think they can also put it on their weapons. There is combat training and combat tactics. Combat training, I think it unlocks higher tier weapons for you to use, and combat tactics allows you to formulate strategies in battle and gives you more tactics slots. In this game, there's kind of a tactics meta that you can build, which is that you can have things set up, the AI set up to do things in certain situations. So as a basic example, you can have your mage, his combat tactic set to, if anybody gets below 25% health, that mage, as long as he's able to, will cast heal on whatever person is below 25% health. So they're useful things to have because you won't have to micromanage everyone. It's definitely a lot more useful in the console version of the game than it is in the PC version, where you can always pause and maneuver everybody around. But it lets things happen that maybe you might miss. So it makes managing your team a bit easier. But for now, I think we're going to go with the coercion skill. Now let's take a look at our talents. These are your abilities that you will usually be able to use in combat. I think we're just going to want to take... oh, apparently we can only take... Oh, wait, we need combat training. Okay, well then what we're going to do is we're going to take combat training. I don't want coercion just yet then. We're a new rogue, so we aren't as learned in the world. So, I'm going to be a melee archer, and... Let's see. I think we'll take rapid shot. Or maybe pinning shot, I don't know. Yeah, we'll take rapid shot and take people out faster. What difficulty do we want to play on? Let's play on hard and see what happens. I could be I remember this being a difficult game, so I could be putting myself into a dire situation here.
Deep beneath the Frostback Mountains sits Orzammar, largest and proudest of the two remaining dwarven cities. Once the seat of an underground empire, Orzammar now stands alone, cut off from the world by the darkspawn, still clinging to the memory of its former glory. Below the vast statues and gilded halls where the noble families play at politics, the lower castes live in their shadows, scurrying to serve like their ancestors before them. Below that is you. You are casteless, the dirty secret staining Orzammar's perfect society, forced, along with your sister, to sell your services to the crime lord Barat. To the rest of Orzammar, you are proof that the casteless deserve their fate. But you know you do what you have to, the same as everyone, just to survive.
I can't keep gambling on you forever, Precious. You've got a sweet look, something to light a man on fire. But you gotta make it count.
Please, Barat. Can we not do this in front of my brother?
Why not? He knows the slope of the land, don't you, boy?
Okay. So I'm gonna play this guy to kind of be a, more of an eviler kind of side. Not a coward, though. Kind of watching out for his own hide. So, let's see.
You told me a lot of things, not one of which meant more than a fart in the middens. Before me, your sister was just another duster. Now check her out. Braids down to here, gold-capped teeth. She can recite elf poetry and play the string harp. Every man's dream. All she's got to do is find a lord, squeeze out some kid who looks like him, and we're all living the easy life in the Diamond Quarter.
Please, don't get involved. You know that never goes well.
Alright, how much more does he think you can do?
She can do whatever I tell her, even if that means walking into the king's own palace naked. You keep your head down and say aye to any job I decide is low enough for scum like you. In return, I put out coins so you can doll yourself up and get a belly full of some nobleman's brats. Then you both go free, and I get to join the family and be called my lord for the rest of the little prince's life.
I am gonna enjoy killing you if that time ever comes.
Checking
What are you
on
doing
my
here?
investments, and right now, they don't bear much gold. I'm giving you another week, Precious. If you haven't found a patron, you're back to sweeping streets.
But I have. I've met someone. That is, I didn't want to promise, but he seemed interested.
Okay.
Everyone needs
Watch
me.
yourself, Barat.
Because everyone has things they want, and my Carter, we're the ones who provide. Until you can do that, you're nothing but my errand boy. So shut up and do as you're told.
You have some more errands for me to run? Want me to beat someone up for you?
Yes. Your buddy Lesky's waiting outside. He knows what I'll need from you today. Don't even think about bungling this job. Your whole family's on loose sand with me right now. And I know you don't have anywhere else to turn.
I'm sorry you had to see that.
Yeah, I'm really gonna enjoy sticking a fork up his butt. You don't have to hide. I've seen it before, and I'll see it again.
And I feel like every time you do, it kills something in you. You were such a loving child. I hate what this place made you into. That's why I didn't tell you. Barat's been warning me ever since 2 of his other girls found patrons at Lord Harrowmont's reception. They've been getting gifts already. Lord Rooston gave Elsie a surface silk gown, and she's not even pregnant. Barat's getting impatient.
I just wish we didn't have to kiss up to that cave tick.
You know the other options. Cleaning middens, begging, going to the surface. No. Unless you find a way to save us all from darkspawn and become a paragon. We're pretty much on Barat's leash for life.
Barat expects too much. I need to get going before Barat comes back. It's not fair that Barat gets to push us
Money gives
around.
him power. He's got family on the surface, which means he can smuggle up lyrium and smithcrafts, and bring down silks, wines, and furs. And he played it smart. When he started expanding, he made sure it was only the casteless he shook down for protection, so the guardsmen didn't care.
So why does Barat care about hustling you to an...
As far as the nobles are concerned, he still stinks of Dust Town. He's got money now, but you can't buy caste, you know? No noblewoman would risk a dalliance with him. His only chance to join a noble family is to claim kinship with the concubine who bears a noble's son. And that's what he wants more than anything. Don't you? Imagine what it would be like not to have people look at us like we're sewer sludge. To think our lives are worth something.
Oh, I'm gonna make my life worth something one day. Don't you worry. Yet you tell me I can become a paragon.
It wouldn't be the first time. Garelon the Blood Risen was born casteless, you know, before he went to the surface. And he came back and won the throne. Many paragons have humble origins. All that matters is that the Assembly recognizes their achievements. And once they get that vote, they found their own house, and are as noble as if the ancestors themselves had made it so.
You're a little optimistic, sister. That certainly would surprise
Don't pay
Mom.
attention to her. She's just a bitter old drunk. She also said you'd never learn to walk, or stop dumping in the bed. Make something of yourself just to spite her.
Yeah, so I don't have a good relationship with my mom, but apparently I have a eerily good relationship with my sister. I already talked about Barat pushing us around. I don't know why I can't just join the army and fight Darkspawn.
It's sheer folly. One more way the nobles protect their status. They say casteless soldiers are more danger to each other than to Darkspawn. That it's an insult to the smith to let us touch a fine-made weapon. Truly, they just don't wish to insult the warrior caste by showing that given the same opportunities, we could lead an army just as well.
So that makes sense. The Dwarven Empire has pretty much been driven to extinction by the Darkspawn, because the Darkspawn originate from underground, by the Darkspawn and their constant insurrections. And we're not gonna have our lowest caste even join the military. Haven't the Darkspawn almost overrun the current? See, there you go.
Every year, more of the beasts come up from the deep roads. I've heard they've even been harrying the surface.
That's a bit of foreboding there. Is anyone doing anything about it?
Aye. They would even turn to humans for aid before us, it seems. There's been talk of an alliance against the Darkspawn. Even that the Grey Wardens have stepped up. But we don't have time for this now. Lesky must be waiting, and Barat won't like it if I'm late for my appointment.
You know what? Barat expects a little too much from you.
You know how desperate the nobles are for more children? They can barely field enough soldiers to hold the walls against the Darkspawn. If I could give one of them a son, the whole house would celebrate. And we'd all be raised up to noble caste to join the family. It's what Barat's betting on. That's why he paid for my clothes, my voice lessons. He wants to share the reward.
Makes sense, but isn't the work I do for Barat enough?
You've worked hard to keep him from throwing us out. I can only imagine the horrible things he's made you do. But there are a lot of desperate dwarves in Orzammar. He could buy any one of them to run messages and knock skulls.
Alright, I already talked about everything. You know what? I need to get going before Barat comes back. Later, sis.
Stay out of trouble. I'll see you tonight.
Alright. There's the autosave. Let's explore the house a little bit.
On it.
I forget how I, Can I not open my chest? No? Zoom out. Oh, okay. We have to be standing right on top of it. Okay. So there's two ways to control. I can just move my character around with the WSD keys, or I can right-click, like in a strategy game, and tell him to move around. This is a little more familiar for the Baldur's Gate types out there. But I think this is my mom right here. We're not going to talk to her just yet, though, because I think we are out of time. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please stay tuned for part 2.